What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ review. I'm going to give you guys my review of The Irishman, the new movie that just dropped on Netflix. I do believe it's got a limited release in theaters. Martin Scorsese's new movie starring Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, and a bunch of other big Hollywood heavyweights. But first, thank you for being here at the LQ review. Definitely appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. And let's dive into it. All right. This was a fantastic movie. I had problems with it, but it was fantastic. It's my, I don't know if it's cracked my top 5. I think it might be number 6 right now. And hear me out. It all comes down to rewatchability. All right. It all comes down to rewatchability. Right now, I've got Jojo Rabbit at 1. I'm going to watch the heck out of that movie when it comes out on Blu-ray. I am. I thought it was hilarious. I've got Joker at 2. That's a movie I will revisit that one often. Joker's my number 2 favorite movie of the year. Number 3 is Avengers Endgame. Obviously, that's something that I've already revisited that one countless times. Number 4. New one with Tom Hanks, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Just a really, really good, strong performance by Tom Hanks in this is a movie that's not getting enough love. Number 5, I'm going to get the hate now. Bring on the hate, bring on the hate, bring on the hate. Number 5 is Shazam. Guys, I love Shazam. I thought it was a great, great little superhero movie. And then I think number 6 right now is The Irishman. Now, before anybody gets out their pitchfork and says, how dare he like Shazam more than The Irishman? How dare he like Avengers Endgame more than The Irishman? Does he not know true cinema? All right. Put the pitchforks away. It comes down to rewatchability for me, guys. I understand why studios passed on this movie. I get it. 100%. If I was a studio head, I would have passed on this movie. Nobody would have paid to see this movie. Yeah. You're that cinema. I would have paid to see it. People would have gone to see it, but it wouldn't have made any money. It wouldn't have made any money. It's a 3.5-hour movie that's really slow about Jimmy Hoffa and The Irishman. It wouldn't have made its budget back, guys. It wouldn't have made its budget back, and it would not have covered marketing costs. It would have been a bad move putting it in theaters because not enough people would have gone to see it. That is precisely why I've got it at number 6 and not at number 2 or 3. Because I might not ever watch it again. That's not true. I mean, I'm sure I'll watch it again at some point, but I don't need to see it again for a long time. It was really long, really slow. These are obvious gripes for me. Really long, really slow. The story was interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting story. But I got it now. It was too long. And there were many times through the course of this movie that I was watching it and I was thinking, they're lingering on this too long. Like there were shots where they would just sit there on De Niro, sitting there for several seconds before they'd cut away. They had a couple scenes in a car where they spent a lot of time, several seconds, on a car driving or just them looking out the window. I mean, there's a lot of quiet moments in this movie, and some people will say that's part of the beauty of it. And I say, yeah, I understand that is part of the beauty, but at 3.5 hours, they should have found places to cut it down. They should have. It's too long. It's too long. It felt like Scorsese was a little overindulgent in this movie. There were things that I felt were in it that didn't have to be there. There were scenes that I felt were in it that didn't have to be there. It just felt, like I said, it just felt very overindulgent to me. All right, we got some of the negatives out of the way. That's why I've got it at my personal number 6 of the year. So far. There's still some movies I haven't seen yet. So from a purely subjective, not objective, from purely subjective standpoint, right now I got my number 6, and yes, I've got Shazam ahead of it. I've got Avengers Endgame ahead of it. I got Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood ahead of it, just because I'll go back and revisit those more than I will The Irishman. And that's got to factor in for me. Let's talk about the good. This was a really interesting storyline on the life of Jimmy Hoffa. And I know that there's been stories written about Jimmy Hoffa. And I know that, the character, the Irishman, Frank Sellers, I think, right? I know that character has played a role in these movies, but I don't think it's ever been told as well as it's been told in this movie, The Irishman. I feel like just the love and the care and the direction. Guys, Scorsese's awesome. I don't agree with some of the stuff he said about the MCU, but dude is awesome. Dude makes great movies. And this is a good movie. I don't think it's his best, but it's a good, solid movie. But what makes this movie really stand out is not the story. The story, like I said, I like it. It's a little slow and it drags in some places, but I like the story. It's a good telling of this true story. What makes this movie stand out and what makes this movie so powerful and so strong, though, is the performances. Guys, Robert De Niro brings it home. Robert De Niro, I don't know, between Robert De Niro and Joaquin Phoenix, who's going to get the Best Actor award, because Robert De Niro brought it home in this movie. And since the Academy kind of has a soft spot for movies like this, as opposed to the Joker, my money's on De Niro. My money's on De Niro. But guys, this doesn't stop. Joe Pesci. Oh my gosh. Joe Pesci. Dude has still got it. Joe Pesci brought it. Joe Pesci played Russell, Baldini? He played a mob boss. Dude has got it, man. I've always loved Joe Pesci. Goodfellas, Casino, Home Alone. I've loved Joe Pesci for years. Dude brought it in this, man. This might be his best performance that he's ever given. And dude's an Academy Award winner. And he just brought it in this. He brought emotion. He brought confliction. He brought vengeance. He brought a certain business level of thought and execution when it came to execution. Joe Pesci, I mean, there were some, the moments that for whatever reason stand out to me, is when Joe Pesci's character Russell is talking to Frank and they're at a bowling alley. And he's talking to Frank about how his daughter Peggy doesn't like him. And Joe Pesci tries to have this sweet interaction with this kid, and he learns that, it's obvious to him that Frank's daughter doesn't like him. And he wants her to like him because he feels like he's a part of Frank's family. And he is. He is a part of Frank's family. And the hurt and the sadness that he's able to portray in that moment, I was like, give that man a supporting actor award right now. I loved it. Joe Pesci, again, my money's on him for supporting actor. It is. Brilliant job. Al Pacino playing Jimmy Hoffa. This is going to sound awful. I'm a history teacher, high school history teacher. I don't have a lot of experience with Jimmy Hoffa. I know he was president of the Teamsters. I know that he was involved with the mob. I know he disappeared. So, I know the Jimmy Hoffa storyline, but I didn't know really the intricacies of it. Not as good as I do now. After I watched The Irishman, I watched it this morning. After I watched it, I got online and I researched these characters. And Jimmy Hoffa is a fascinating character. And wow, what a good choice in Al Pacino to play this. I didn't even recognize him as Al Pacino, right? This guy just became that character. So those were the three standouts to me. Anna Paquin was in it. There were several other good, strong, solid performances in this, but those were the three that just really struck me as being award worthy. And it was the performances in this movie that just really elevated it, and that's the strength of this movie, because without those performances, this would have been a boring movie. It would have. I'm just saying, this would have been a boring movie without those performances, but those performances created something that you couldn't take your eyes off of. It's 2 hours long. Or sorry, it's 3.5 hours long. The movie's 3.5 hours long. At the 2 hour point, I turned it off. I did. I turned it off. It was on a little bit long, and I was like, okay, I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to refresh my brain a little bit. I'm going to take a little break from it. It was off 20 minutes, and I had to get back into it. I had to get back into it because I was enjoying it to that level. But like I said, it wasn't the story. It wasn't, it definitely wasn't the action. You know, it was none of that. It was the performances. I wanted to get back into those performances. That was what I wanted more of. And they were great. They were great. This isn't the type of movie that you think about when you think about special effects. But this movie was told with a lot of flashbacks and flash forwards. And like the main part of the storyline involved De Niro at his current age. But they had flash forwards where you see him as an old man, older than he is now. They had flashbacks where you see him as a younger man. Guys, the de-aging technology in this was on par with anything that Marvel has done or Disney has done. You know, I know that Disney has some really good de-aging technology, and this was on par with it. It was on par with it. There's a couple moments where I could look at it. My daughter's playing. There are a couple moments where I could look at it and I could say, yeah, that looks a little video game-ish. But for the most part, the de-aging technology in this was brilliant. But yeah, this is a great movie. And it proves again that although we might disagree with Scorsese on some of his ideas on what cinema is and what cinema isn't, clearly the dude's a master of what he does. He's a great storyteller, maybe a little overindulgent sometimes, but this was a great movie. I give it an A-. I give it an A- simply because it was overlong, and it didn't have to be that long. But guys, it's worth watching. Don't let the runtime scare you. Don't let the runtime, and don't get into it. Don't get half hour into it and be like, we're only half hour in. I still got 3 hours left. Commit. All right. If you're going to watch it, commit, because it's worth it. It's got some great payoffs in it. It's just a little long for my liking with the kind of story that it is. So, A- is my grade. What did you give The Irishman? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you thought on it. But thank you so much for being here at the LQ Review, where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff we love to talk about. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Every single day